What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. If you are, make sure you leave a like on the video. And if you haven't yet, make sure you click that subscribe button down below. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. We're starting to build up some steam on YouTube. It seems like the more people subscribe, the more they recommend the videos. And it's been a long time since new viewers were allowed to see my videos. And I know that's because of your hard work. Now, Joe Rogan has spoken out against this ridiculous Florida bill, as well as talked about the mainstream media's coverage of that old boy Hunter. A big no-no, I suppose, but Joe Rogan doesn't seem to mind, and we all appreciate him using his large platform to talk about things. Look, Joe's usually not the first person to talk about stuff, but you must respect that when he talks about it, 12 million people are hearing, more than probably people who watch CNN or MSNBC or CNBC or all these websites, the Young Turks and stuff like that. So when he talks about something, it has a massive, massive impact, almost as much impact as the brand new computer I got from Meta PCs. Check this out. Huge shout out to this video sponsor, Meta PCs. Look, you've been around, you know that I've been talking about Meta PCs for a very long time. In fact, it's the primary computer I use. But it's not just because they're a sponsor. It's for so many more reasons. They have fully customizable, configurable PCs and all the hardest to find parts in stock and ready to go. They also have ready to ship PCs ready for you today. Here's a couple of reasons why I like Meta PCs. First and foremost, it's veteran ownership. Meta PCs is a veteran-owned business. One of Meta's owners has served both in Afghanistan and Iraq and received a Purple Heart for his service. Meta also employs military veterans in Meta's operations center and also provides systems to veterans going back to school to help them re-enter the workforce all across the United States. They offer financing. It has 100% US-based sales and support. And when you receive your PC, it's ready to go right out of the box. So you don't have to get complicated and set things up. You just plug it all in and you're ready to rock. And on top of that, Meta PCs is offering you, my viewer, a huge discount when you use the link in the description or you use promo code TheQuartering. If you use my code at checkout, not only do you save money, but you support my content and a company that will not bow to cancel culture. So maybe you're not ready to pick up a new computer today, but when you are, remember to go to metapcs.com and use promo code TheQuartering to support me and to save money. And everybody wins. Now, they're not just for gamers, and maybe you're not in the market. I mean, many people are in the market for right now to buy a new computer, but they're an awesome sponsor that lets me put them in any video I want and sticks with me even after multiple attempts to have them break partnership with me, even from some people close to their company. So that's why I use their computer, and that's why I recommend them. Now, Joe Rogan tackles critics of Florida's bill. Parents just don't want you grooming their kids. Joe Rogan discussed Florida's new parental rights and education bill. To recap, that's the bill opponents call Don't Say Gay. And supporters called the anti-groomer bill. Ron DeSantis calls it signed legislation, and a majority of Americans call it popular once they're told what the bill actually says. Rogan tackles some of the lies the opponents of the bill have been spreading. Quote, teachers shouldn't have any say at all in what you're talking to a 7-year-old about. I feel that's the job of the parents. And by the way, I would argue that most people agree. The idea that you're saying, quote, don't say gay because you're saying ages 1st grade to 3rd grade, you shouldn't be bringing these subjects up to them. I think a lot of parents are saying, no, I just don't want you grooming my kids for whatever your ideology is. All true, but the both sidesism is a bit much. No one is worried about, quote, the far right indoctrinating or doing this kind of thing to kids on their ideology because no one on the far right is doing that. The same goes for center-right rhinos. That's Republicans in name only for people who are unfamiliar with that term. And independents. If a teacher so much as acknowledged that Donald Trump was even a president, they are bullied into apologizing for it. The indoctrination and this kind of stuff are entirely done by the far left, also known as, quote, just the left, since there are no moderates on that side anymore. I disagree with that. I disagree. There are lots of moderate people on the left. Lots of them. I'm friends with a lot of them. Wisconsin is, I don't know what you'd call it, basically a purple state. voted for Trump in 2016, and then it flipped to Joe Biden, was one of Joe Biden's 80 bazillion votes. And so there are a lot of like union Democrats that are, and things like that are vote Democrat that are not insane. I have friends that are young and liberal and not insane. I have a lot of friends who are Bernie supporters or were Bernie supporters, and we agree on most things. So there are absolutely a lot of moderate people on the left existing, I suppose. But they're just not online, and they're not spending all day on Twitter. They're like working a real job, Rogan's friend who said she'd be down with the Republicans if they dropped all the LGBT stuff. What specifically does she mean? I'd venture that a lot of this stuff is based on liberals and the media, but I repeat myself, lying about the legislation over what's appropriate to teach 5-year-olds. Look, there are, again, like, I love Steven. I just did a video praising what he did there, and this isn't written by Steven. I think it's probably Brodigan. Yeah, Brodigan. I love Brodigan, but also, like, no, there are absolutely conservatives who have, like, who are strongly against gay marriage still. It's not a core issue in the Republican Party. It's kind of a background issue, and but it still exists, and it still gets kind of painted with the Republicans. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that that narrative does exist about some Republicans still. Most modern day Republicans, like, I think the people my age who grow up and get into politics will be more progressive. They'll be Republican on like financial issues and more left-leaning on like environmental and human rights issues. And I think like that's where I put myself, right? Like very squarely right there. I want to pay the least taxes humanly possible. I don't want any new foreign wars. I want to help the homeless in this country. I want people to have a fair path to citizenship, but I also want to protect our borders. These are not wild ideas. I suppose my detractors call me a conservative or Republican as if that's some sort of slur, but I don't even use that word to refer to myself. Or glorifying a swimmer, he goes on to write, who went through puberty as a male and is crushing female competition. Just saying you need to have an actual conversation with Republicans, not just go on what activists say. I would agree with that, for the most part. But here's where Joe gets a little extra spicy. Quote, they're willing to ignore facts to push their narrative. Now, Joe Rogan slams liberal media for suppressing the stories about Joe Biden's son and his infamous computer before the election. Remember when that happened, where the New York Post, I believe it was essentially locked out of their Twitter account because they reported on what we now know is a fact, and what we knew then was a fact. No, like, normal American was like, I wonder if it really was his laptop. The laptop with thousands of personal emails and pictures of himself in the buff and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's definitely some sort of all manufactured by Russians who can't seem to even take over Ukraine. All right, I'm supposed to believe that they fabricated this laptop and they planted it in some little computer repair shop before the election, all in a bid to help Trump. There were people that believed that. We call them lunatics. Joe Rogan has chastised liberal media outlets for creating a false narrative surrounding the infamous laptop after it was revealed incriminating text messages, photos, and financial documents were found on the devices and were deemed authentic by the New York Times. When the New York Post said it was misinformation. During a Saturday airing of the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan called out journalists for suppressing the story, first reported by the New York Post and the DailyMail.com in the weeks before the 2020 election. He spoke days after the New York Times finally admitted that the laptop was real, having haughtily dismissed the story as, quote, misinformation in the run-up to last year's White House contest. Quote, this is the problem that I have with the New York Post article and the laptop being suppressed, Rogan told guest former CIA officer and security expert Mike Baker. It's not that I'm a Trump supporter, Rogan first disclaimed. I didn't vote for him. I've never voted for any Republican in my life, he continued. You're looking at something that's real information, and you're hiding it from people because you don't like the result you think is going to come out of that information. That's not how we're supposed to be doing things. The Post, of course, originally broke the story of the contents of the 3, quote, misplaced computers belonging to Joe's son in October 2020, when the computer repairman, John Paul Mac Isaac's possession, and after a, quote, inebriated Joe's son brought it in for repairs to his Delaware shop back in April 2019 and never bothered to pick it back up. And, you know, the information that, of course, was on that laptop was just as damaging as you might think it would have been. But all they needed to do was suppress it long enough to get through the election. And that's exactly what they did. So when the New York Times is quoted to you as some sort of credible source, you don't need to go any further than that. And understand that anybody who worked for the New York Times that wasn't openly saying that this was real and that we should be reporting on it should never be taken seriously as an investigative journalist ever again, and should only be thought as essentially as a shill, a propagandist. Social media outlets such as Twitter and Facebook censored initial reports concerning the contents of the computer, with the platforms similarly categorizing reports on the computer. Now, if he had bought a Meta PC and saved using promo code The Quartering, he probably wouldn't have had to take it in for repair, but that's neither here nor there. They're willing to ignore facts to push a narrative, Rogan told Baker, who now serves as a national correspondent for the Times. That's what scares me. What scares me is I think there are objective journalists that work for the Washington Post and the New York Times, and there are real solid journalists out there. But I don't necessarily know if you're getting all the information. I think it's safe to say that some effery is afoot, the former Fear Factor host said. The Times last week published a story that served as an abrupt about-face on its stance concerning the coverage of the story, which contains claims of corruption and all sorts of things against, Joe's son, who everyone was fine to promote his art sale that he could profit off his father's name. Tell me again why he was working for a power company in Ukraine again, and then we're back and we're fighting in Ukraine. Tell me how vice president of this country's son ended up there, and then it's just it's some questions that regular people probably want to know. Saturday, Rogan tore both into the Times and Joe Biden, who famously and repeatedly denounced reports regarding the computer as untrue, as knowingly deceiving the American public with what he knew to be a lie. The New York Times just now is admitting that it's real, the USA commentator said. We remember from the debates with Trump bringing it up to Joe and Joe saying it was BS. It's a lie, Rogan went on to declare, a flat-out lie, and everyone knew it was. The host then remarked about how Twitter locked out the post of its platform for 7 days in October 2020 for sharing the report, detailing the incriminating emails and photos allegedly found on it. Emails on the abandoned laptop obtained by the Daily Mail in 2021 revealed how Joe's son and his colleagues leveraged their U.S. government connections and plotted a propaganda campaign for the grafting Romanian tycoon. The FBI obtained a device from Mac Isaac sometime around 2020. By the way, the FBI conveniently didn't, find anything important on it. The videos, there are videos of him admitting that he lost other laptops. Good job, Joe. Keep fighting the good fight. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.